Right. This next bit is about the creation of relationships. Now, I'm hoping that most of you have now got your tables, 3 tables created with appropriate field names and appropriate validation. Now, I know a few people have started creating their own validation rules or input masks, which is great. You've hopefully assigned a primary key to each field. Sorry, not each field, that's wrong. Each table. Each table has relevant names, so prefixed by TBL underscore customer, TBL underscore technician details, whatever it is, and TBL underscore request something or other. Hopefully your field names also have no blank spaces between them. So it's customer underscore name, customer underscore ID, etc., etc., etc. If you've got a text field, you've made sure you've adjusted the length. Yes. If it's a required field, you've made sure you've got presence check, you've got date, time, etc., etc., etc. So hopefully all that's done. And if you're not sure about that, then go back and look at the video. Because as what we're going to do next week is we're going to give you an open book exam on what we've done so far. So it'll be a different topic, yes, but you're going to go through it. Now, what I'd like you to do, and what's really important, is that you load up your designs, the ERD designs now. Yes, that's the little square boxes with the crow's feet relationships. Because what we're going to do now is you're going to, leave that open because it's quite warm. We're going to create the relationships. Now, I'm going to open up Happy Campers again, hopefully. I don't know where it's gone. This PC. Sorry, I'm going to open up Happy Campers very quickly. Okay, so what we're going to try and do, just stay with me a little bit, please. I know it's been a lot this morning, is we're going to create the relationships. Now, the reason I said in here, please do not enter the data into the tables until you've got the relationships. Because if there's anything wrong with your table structure, adding the data will only compound that, and you'll have to undo it and resort it. Yes? So we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to go to database tools at the top. Okay? And then we're going to go to relationships, which are non-existent on here. There we go. I'm going to click relationships. Now I'm just going to get rid of my relationships on here for now. Now, this is very similar to what you guys have got on your database. All right, there are 3 tables. There's a customer table. There's effectively a technician table, yes, in van. And there is a booking table, which in effect is your support request table. Now, a relationship exists. So firstly, you have to make sure you saved each of your tables. Okay? A relationship exists between the primary key of one table and the foreign key of another. Now, in basic terms, what that means, I'm going to take customer and I'm going to hold down the left-hand mouse button. I'm going to keep it held, clicked on customer ID. And then I'm going to drag to the relevant or related field, which is customer ID. So this is the foreign key in the booking table, and I'm going to let go. And I'm going to get this little pop-up window. Now, this little pop-up window will tell you whether you've got this right or not. Well, in part. Number 1, it will tell you you've got one field from one table, customer ID from the table customer, and you've got customer ID from table booking. So you know you're linking it between those 2 fields. At the bottom, it will say one-to-many, the relationship type. So play it through. One customer can have many bookings. That makes sense. So everything's looking good so far. Now, one thing that's often overlooked, now if I create that there, I'll get a single line. If you get a single line on your exam, that's not quite right. What you're looking for is a very thick black line with the 1 to infinity symbol on it. Now, if Scott, there we go, oh, hold on a minute. Can you right click on it? That's it, right click on it and edit relationship. So Scott, can you just go back a minute and do that again? So Scott's going to right click on the line itself. Now you'll know you selected the line because it will go black and you'll see this little pop-up window here. Yes, edit relationship. Once he goes to edit relationship, he's going to make sure he ticks enforce referential integrity. Annika, I'm teaching down this end of the room. You don't want to be here. Feel free. Yes? He's going to make sure he ticks enforce referential integrity. Now, what that means in plain English, and you're all aware of this, is that a foreign key cannot exist without a related primary key. Now, that sounds very complicated, but in plain English, that means you can't go to Amazon and buy a product until you've registered to be a customer first. Think about it, yes? You can't check out until you've registered to be a customer. You can't be on my register here until you've enrolled at college, yes? I can't use your student ID until you've actually been given a student ID. That's what it means. And when he does that and presses OK, you'll notice that the relationship line changes. It changes to a thick black line with the 1 to infinity symbol, which means 1 to many. Now, in some cases, you will get an error. Now, trying to replicate that error at this point, you know what's coming. Can you? Yeah, thank you. Now, what Scott's going to try and do for me now is replicate an error that most of you will probably get. And it's a really easy fix, but I'm going to include it in the video because most people, well, there's 2 errors you're going to get. And one Scott's going to rectify now for me, or sort out now for me. The other one is really simple. Do you have to replicate and show these errors in your exam? No, not at all. So why am I showing you? Well, I'm showing you because when you get to your exam, I don't want anybody panicking. Okay? Now, brilliant. You know where I was going with that. That says on there, relationship must be on the same number of fields with the same data types. Now, that error, unlike lots of applications and lots of programs, those guys who were working with me on Python yesterday will know there's a lot of gobbledygook goes into errors, but actually if you get to the bottom, yes, and find out what line it's on, it makes a lot of sense. This doesn't make a lot of sense, if I'm honest, and a lot of people see this and panic. Not because they can't read it, but what have I done? Well, this is really, really simple error. Now, this is a relationship between the customer ID and the customer ID of customer table and customer ID of booking table. What this error is saying is that one of those fields are different types of data. So one is probably set as string, one is set as number, possibly. So what we'll do now is Scott will open up the booking table and we can see customer ID is set as short text. He's going to open up the customer table in design view and he's going to see customer ID is set as number. Now, what people think is, well, that can't be auto number. Sometimes that's auto number, yes? Auto number and number should be, it doesn't really matter, but if you change this one back to number, they should both be number of some description. Now, even if this, hold on, stay on customer, there you go. If this customer ID is set as auto number, which most of you have, I want you to pay close attention to the field size at the bottom. It says long integer. Now, if Scott goes back to booking and goes to customer ID where it's set as number, we've also got long integer. So it's not only do they both need to be the same type of data, auto number and number are still numbers. Yeah, that's okay. But string and string or text and text, yes, that's fine. Now, it'll throw up a wobbly saying, oh, some data might be lost, blah, 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 blah. But now when Scott goes back to database tools, add tables, yes. There we go. Yep. And he adds customer again. We can add that back. So I'm just going to repeat that, what he's just done. If we haven't got a table, you go to database tools, okay, and there should be, oh no, relationship design, my apologies. And there's this window, this little box here called add tables, and it will pop up on the right hand side, and we can add customer back in, which he's going to do. We then drag customer ID back to customer ID like we've done before, enforce referential integrity, create. And we get that. So that solves one error. The other error that popped up during that, will you have the customer table open up, please? And will you then go back to relationships and try and delete the relationship, please? So go back to there. Yeah. And just try and delete that relationship again. Right. That one. Second one I want. Right. This error that pops up, dead easy fix. You two aren't quick enough to get rid of that window that keeps popping up on your screens. If I try to delete this whilst the table is open, yes, or the form or the query that this is related to, it will say you're not allowed to. That's a little quirk of access. What you need to do is just close the tables down before you start editing the relationships. Make sense? So what do I want you to do now? If you've not already done so, I want you to create the relationships. So on this one, we have customer to customer and van to van. It's not a dot to dot. Not every table has to be linked to every other table. Then what I want you to do is I want you to add the appropriate data from the spreadsheet or from the scenario to your tables. Now you can import this if you want to as text files, or you can type it in, whichever you feel quickest. I'm going to give you about 15 minutes to do this. I don't think that's unreasonable. Tommy, Wayne? Tommy, Aaron, sorry, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that one. To be honest, I'd recommend just type it in yourself. It's only a small data set. It won't take very long.
Yep. So that's what I want you to do across the three groups. So by about 22, you should have all three tables built, all three sets of validation techniques, input mass, etc., appropriate field names, and you should also have the relationships, and you should have the, what was the last thing? Oh, the data. Yeah, that's it. Okay.